So we're going to switch gears a little bit, still on the topic of research, but let's talk about clinical trials. And it's a nice way for me to set up all of our industry partners talk right after me. So let's talk about clinical trials. It's a term that we've all heard before, but there's a lot of things that we know and we don't know as a family that you may have a question about. So let's just answer some of those questions. Okay, so from the root of it, why should you join a clinical trial? So rare diseases like LGS often have very limited option in terms of treatment that works. So this is why a clinical trial is done. This reality is hard, but this is why clinical trials matter so much. So a trial offers the possibility of a better treatment, something that might work when others haven't worked so far. And what's really important that I want you to hold on to is that even a clinical trial that has deemed as failed, we can still learn so much about how to treat LGS and understanding of LGS. So in the simplest form, a clinical trial is a carefully designed research study. It tests whether a new treatment, medication, device, or approach is safe and effective. So every trial, doesn't matter if it's LGS or not, follows a very strict plan, and nothing happens without multiple layers of review and oversight. So trials usually move through 4 phases. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Phase 1 asks a very simple question: is it safe? So it's not about proving whether the new treatment works or not. It's about making sure that it doesn't cause any serious harm. Phase 2 is, does it work? For example, it's going to ask questions like, does this new treatment work in combating seizures? Phase 3, so the question at phase 3 that's asking is that, this new treatment, is it better than what we already know, or compared to the treatment that's already on the market? So phase 3 is what regulatory agency like the FDA use to decide whether to approve a drug or a new device or not. So this phase is comparative. It compared to somebody who received the treatment to compared to somebody who doesn't receive the treatment and assess the effectiveness of that new medication. So in terms of LGS treatment, LGS clinical trials, most of these trials will be in phase 2 or 3, so you don't have to worry about phase 1, whether it's going to be safe or not. So let's walk through some of the terms that you may have already heard or you probably will hear in terms of running a clinical trial. So randomization. So randomization means that participants are assigned to groups by chance, which keeps the results honest. So whether you're assigned to a group that received treatment or doesn't, it's by chance. So placebo or control group, and I think Tracy already used this term. So it lets the researchers compare new treatments against standard care. Blinding. Blinding means that participants or families like yours, and sometimes even the researchers, don't know which group that the individual is part of. So again, it's to keep the bias out. And then the word protocol is often used. It's a detailed master plan that every clinical trial site or hospital must follow to protect your loved one at every step. So on the right-hand side of the slide, these are the oversight body that sits above all of this to ensure the safety and the honesty of the trial. So the FDA sets a regulatory standard that every trial must meet to even begin. The IRB, which stands for Independent Review Board, is a committee of scientists, ethicists, and community members who review the trial design specifically to protect the participants' rights and welfare. So they're not employed by the pharmaceutical company that sponsored the trial. They're here to just ensure safety and rights. Then the Data Safety and Monitoring Board. It's an independent group of experts who review participants' safety data throughout the entirety of the trial, and they have the authority to stop the trial immediately if they see any signs of harm. So all of these checks and balances are in place to ensure that your loved ones are, the structure exists to ensure that your loved ones' rights and safety are protected. And then lastly, there's your clinical trial team, who you will come to know and trust, and who will be with your loved one at every clinical visit as part of the trial. So what does participating in a clinical trial actually looks like? So it usually starts with screening and enrollment. The trial team will review your loved one's records to run eligibility tests and walk you through the informed consent process. So informed consent is the most important thing, and I want you to walk away with that today. It means that you are informed every single step of the way on what is happening and what is going to happen. And you will need to consent to it before anything and everything actually happens. So informed consent is an ongoing process. It's not a one-and-done thing at the beginning, and not a one-and-done thing in the beginning. And you are under no obligation after the screening process until you give the consent. You can learn everything there is about the trial and still tell them no, that you do not want to participate. If you say yes and you choose to move forward, there will be some baseline visits. There could be measurements and tests done. For example, there could be EEGs done. There could be blood draws done before any treatment will even begin. So this way, the researchers have a starting point of your loved one's condition. Then it comes to the treatment period, which could vary in length, and during which your loved one will try the new treatment, medication, or device. Along with there will be regular clinical visits throughout the treatment process, so your loved one will be closely monitored to ensure the safety and the efficacy of the treatment. So after the treatment ends, there's usually a follow-up phase to track how well your loved one's doing in terms of in longer term. And I want to make this very clear that even if you join, at any point, your loved one can leave the trial you don't have to give any reason, you will not receive any penalty, it's not a fine print, it's your right. So joining a clinical trial, it takes commitment. So let's talk about the commitment that are involved. So expect clinical visits. Expect there could be involved in blood draws, EEG tests. You're likely to be asked to keep a daily seizure diary at home and keep a daily log of your loved one's life. You will be asked to travel to clinical trial sites. They could be close, but they could also be far. And they may be done at specific times. So those times may or may not be flexible to your schedule. So keep that in mind. However, you're not doing this alone. So the trial team, the support team is often available, is available to you. A lot of the trials will offer travel reimbursement, a dedicated nurse coordinator, and the medication is always free. It's free study medication, and there will be extra medical monitoring. And the study team should be available to you 24/7. So it's a commitment, but it's not one that you have to carry alone. With all of that in mind, why do families say yes? Most family wants access to cutting-edge treatment, a therapy that may not be publicly available commercially for years. So others really value the close medical supervision, since trial teams can often catch issues that earlier than standard care. There's no cost to receive the study medication, and this is a great chance for you to contribute directly to LGS research. For families whose current treatments are not working, a trial can offer a new option when other doors have closed. And the clinical trials are often held at leading epilepsy centers, so you with deep LGS experience that you may not have access to your local community. So it connects you to the specialists in the field. So those are all the reasons to say yes, but there's just as many good and valid reasons for you to say no. Like I said, you have to go to trial site, and maybe that's just not feasible. There's, in terms of being part of the trial, in terms of maintaining scientific rigor, you have to go to site at specific times, and that just doesn't fit into your schedule. You're not able to commit to that. Or if your loved one is in a very fragile health state, right? Or if they're doing very well, their seizures are under control. Adding another medication that's not approved yet just doesn't make sense to you right now. And some family can accept the fact that as part of phase 3 trial, you may be potentially receiving the placebo or the control, and when the need at home is very urgent. And keeping daily seizure diaries and daily log is a lot of work, right? And that's what's required for to be part of the trial, so that now may be feasible to you. Then the side effects, they're real. It's entirely reasonable to decide that the side effects outweigh the potential benefits. And other times that just because you want to join a trial, you simply just don't qualify because you don't meet the eligibility criteria. So whether you're leaning towards yes or no when it comes to a trial, ask lots of questions. There's no wrong questions, and there's no too many questions. Write them down before you meet your clinicians, meet your trial team. Ask them. Some of the questions you want to ask could be, if I had to join the trial, what are the specific benefits and risks for my loved one? Ask about the chance about receiving a placebo. Ask what happens to your care should you choose to withdraw. What's the time commitment in terms of visiting for a clinic visit? How much are they involved? And will there be compensation and reimbursement for my travel, childcare, loss of wages to visit these clinic sites? And ask what's already known from the earlier phases, and ask how will you know this device or medication is actually doing any improvement when you go home, when you see your loved ones on a daily basis. A good clinical trial team will be ready, able, and happy to answer any and all of your questions. So let's go back to our core data. So based on what our family has, based on what we surveyed and asked, 84% of our LGS family have not or had not participated in a clinical trial. And this is likely because they're not informed about any of these trials. Because when we ask how many, whether your doctors have told you about any clinical trials in the past, 70% of you say that they have never been told about any clinical trial. And we know that you guys are all very much involved in research and very much want to be the forefront of research, because previous surveys have told us that over 90% of LGS family are interested in either joining or at least learning about a new trial. So how do we solve this gap of you all want to be informed about the trial, but your doctors are not telling you? So again, this is where the core registry come in. As a registry member, you can opt in to receive updates about new trials that you may qualify, so you're never left out of the loop. So the registry will put your family on the map, so opportunity will find you instead of the other way around. So you're always in the know, and you can make the decision to learn more about a trial or not, and it's entirely on your terms, and you become visible to science, to research, and to trial. So before I close, so again, here's the protection that I want every one of you to carry home. Informed consent is always required, and it's an ongoing process, and it's on your term. Ask questions at any point. Ask all and any questions. No question is not important enough, and they all warrant an answer. And remember, you can leave a trial at any time without losing access to standard of care, and your loved one's record are always confidential and protected by federal privacy laws. And refusing to participate in a trial will never affect the quality of your loved one's regular medical care at your doctor's office. And participation is voluntary, and there's no wrong answer. And these are some of the resources that we have. Our foundation has lots of resources about LGS clinical trials. And if you go to clinicaltrial.gov, you can search for active LGS trials. And thank you very much. And your family's courage is what inspires research community every single day.